wait, we should do it at the same time, right? No, like that. Okay, ready?
Maydha, please come back. Maydha, please come back.
Okay, ready? We go 3, 2, and then on 1 we go, okay? 3, 2. No, girl, you're going too fast. You know what? Cut that shit. Just cut it.
He's gonna cut all of this.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Who Is with Ross Oteri.
Where are we looking?
The camera.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
My name is Ross Oteri, and I miss Maydha Sood. I'm here joined. Maydha couldn't make it today, but thankfully I have Josefina and Roz in the studio.
Thing 1 and thing 2.
Why am I thing 2?
Well, I don't know, girl. You're on the side.
Okay,
Don't worry about it.
it's a race thing.
It's a race thing.
She looks white, doesn't she? She's not.
Not in the slightest.
Well, where are
I
you
dye my
from?
hair. I look white a little bit, but I'm not.
I'm not.
You can tell by my ethnic nose.
I think you can tell by mine.
Gorgeous.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
What's your question?
What's up?
No, this is kind of the intro of the show. Normally, me and Maydha would be here, just talking shit.
Nice.
Before we introduce the guest. But I guess because you guys are new, I can ask, who are you?
Do you want to go first?
I'm Josefina Bestwick, and I am an actor, director, producer, singer, writer, lover, fighter, dreamer, and that's pretty much it. What about you?
My name is Golshani. I am many of those things. I am not some of those things. That's not true. I'm all of those things.
Thing 1 and thing 2. I'm not saying which is which.
Okay.
Cool. How was your guys'... Maydha, I miss you so much.
You're not coming back.
You guys have an interesting dynamic.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually met quite recently.
We really did, actually.
Yeah.
We met last year through Crash Test Cinema, and then, beginning of the year, is this... Look at her face. I rolled up to my lyric writing class, and there was this guy sitting there. I don't like this guy, and I hope he doesn't see this. This guy, we had a thing. He's weird. I don't want to talk to him. I walk into the class. I'm late. I'm looking around to see...
And she sees the most beautiful woman
I
she's
do.
ever seen.
And this beautiful woman
And
goes...
it was me.
And then a second later, I see this man from across the room go... And then I start walking over to this one, and I see the man go... And I go... And he goes... And I go and I sit with Josefina. And then I say to Josefina, listen, you need to walk out of here with me because I don't want to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then she walks out with me, and we get lunch, and
Then
that's
it
all she wrote.
happened, yeah.
And when was that?
A month ago?
Beginning of September.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we were friends before that, but not
But not really that tight. We
No, 'cause
became
we-
tight now.
yeah.
Yeah.
locked in.
Then
You guys remind me of these two mice on Looney Tunes. I can't remember if they're mice or...
Looney Tunes? I thought like Shrek. No?
Dude, I'm actually scared that guy's gonna gun me down if he sees this.
Hey, listen, I'm not gonna say your name, but you know who you are. Get away from my girl and stop sitting close to us in class. Like every class, he gets closer and closer to the point where he is literally right behind us, and he started at the other end of the class. And mind you, this is a big.
So wait, so now you have this man
Yeah.
who both of you are trying to avoid. One is obviously more than the other, just based off of body language.
Yes.
Who is starting to move inch closer day by day. Like it's almost like the Korean War, where it's like
Almost exactly.
the armies are just okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except
He
he's
showed
white.
up with his guitar one day, and he just started playing it.
Yeah.
Just to me.
Yeah. Men who just pull out guitars
Out of
Am I
their
right?
ass.
out of my
Men
right.
pull out
Look at
guitars
me.
out of their ass.
You were asked to bring it.
Or some pull out a ukulele.
Mhm.
But
But you know
ukuleles are better.
You know
They're
what?
better.
He's not a bad guitar player.
That doesn't matter. He's a terrible person, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, I feel like we should introduce the voice that a lot of people just heard in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Kevin
Stacy,
Hey.
I'm so sorry I said that.
Heieis.
Highest.
Heieis.
Highest.
Highest, highest, highest.
It's Kevin Heieis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob.
We always start the show with one question. Who are you?
Every Tuesday I talked to my therapist about how to answer that. I gotta be honest. This question actually makes me think of something. Do you know what IB is? Like International Baccalaureate?
Yeah.
They have a grade 11 class, grade 11 and 12, called Theory of Knowledge. It's a philosophy class. And one of the first assignments they have is to draw your world. And I could see at the time what they were going for, but I was like, okay, easy answer. Just like draw the earth, the world.
Yeah.
But the point of the activity is like define who you are. What is your world people are drawing? Like their home, their family, the parks they grew up in. And that makes me think of that. It's like, who are you? I grew up with a lot of anxiety. I'm a very empathetic person. I often think about other people before projecting myself. And so figuring out who I am, what I've kind of worked on with my therapist is actually acknowledge that who I am is somebody that recognizes, how other people are feeling, like talking to other people and not being the most opinionated. Then that's okay. And that's something that's been hard to figure out because usually I don't want to talk a lot. And so I've just realized that who I am is someone who encourages other people to talk, I believe.
Yeah, you're like the support to encourage others to use their voice,
Yeah.
to express themselves in whatever way that looks like for
Yeah,
you.
both my therapists have said to me, like, "Wow, Kev, you'd make a good therapist yourself," and I'm like, "Great, I still need the therapy myself, man."
Yeah, it's not like a doctor. You can't just like heal yourself.
Yeah, it's like you can, but I can only think in my own head so much before I go crazy.
Yeah. You brought up the anxiety. I also have like anxiety. How has that affected you in your daily life?
Well, the key thing is always questioning, what are other people thinking of me? I've always been very perceptive of, are other people giving me attention? Like anxiety is like a survival instinct. Like, is somebody else thinking positive of me? And the big thing for me is social anxiety. Like in a group setting, when there's a large conversation happening, I just can't help but think like, what is the social dynamic? Like who's got like the power in this conversation? Who's leading the direction?
Yeah.
And then I want to be a part of it, but I often find sometimes when I try and say something, I think too much about it. And then what ends up happening is, it almost gets ignored. Like sometimes, at a party, I'll go up to a couple people, even if I know them, and I'll go kind of approach, and they'll just not really acknowledge me. And that's the hard thing is, I can't help but think, why aren't they acknowledging me? Why am I not getting the attention that, I'm craving? And so growing out of that is the challenge of like figuring out who I am. Is like, okay, maybe these settings aren't actually what I enjoy.
Yeah.
Maybe these people aren't,
People that I even like necessarily.
perhaps. And maybe like different friends just have different environments that you connect best in. And not, tough thing that I've learned is not everyone is going to be a best friend, Another aspect, I've seen what other people answer. They ask kind of very detail oriented, like, oh, my name's Kevin, and, my literal role is VP Student Life of the AMS. But in this role, I've met probably 400 new people since September, and like on a name basis, like introduction, hey, how you do, get to know them. And that's kind of just who I am. Like in high school, I was a drifter. I would go from pockets of friend groups to pockets of friend groups. The only real people I avoided were like the popular crowd because I was like, I just didn't fit in. But, I'd go to the band crowd because I was in band. I'd go to the sports people because I was wrestling. I was on the rugby team. But it was interesting because I always thought, like, these people thought I was part of a different crowd.
Yeah.
And so I never really felt like I belonged somewhere. And that all kind of ties back to the anxiety of feeling like when I was in a group and I don't feel a distinct pull from others, that I don't belong, and so I remove myself from that situation.
Yeah. Which is hard often, like, because in my experience with anxiety, like going back to the thing you were talking about with a group of people, I've had that exact same experience where, approaching a person or a group of people very warmly, very friendly, and then it not being reciprocated in the way that you would like picture it, and I kind of had to have the thought of like, eventually, because for me at least, it goes like different. It ebbs and flows in different ways. For me, it was like, all right, like fuck those guys, fuck them, and then it was like, all right, maybe it's me, But then also it went to the level of like, you know what? Maybe it was like them,
It goes through phases. The biggest thing I've realized in overcoming that is, you know, the cliche is be yourself.
Yeah.
But it's hard to figure out what that is. Like it's like telling the depressed person, like, hey, bro, just don't be depressed.
Happy.
You
yeah.
know, like
yeah.
what I've seen that look like for me is to do things with confidence. And by confidence, I mean like keep talking even if you don't see someone give explicit attention to you. And this is something I've watched about like how to be a comedian. You know, I like stand-up comedy. I watch some guys, and one of the key factors about delivery is to continue with the joke even if you feel like it's not landing during the setup, because the audience's current reaction doesn't necessarily dictate how they're actually thinking. Something I've also noticed is one of the points where people are the most attentive is when they're dead silent.
Mm-hmm.
That when you're in a crowd, that means you have their full unilateral attention. And that took me a long time to realize, because I assumed that silence meant there's no reciprocation.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect, and like when I go back to saying like I've met 400 people this term, is I think I naturally trust people a lot more than other people trust me. Like I'm very quick to feel like someone is a close friend. You know, very quickly, like I'll just come into a new environment, talk to people, get to know them, and I'll feel like, oh, I've got a bond with this person. I'll like say hi to them, like first name basis. But I am not maybe like a friend that they've had for years that they're always hanging out with. And I've actually had to learn that lesson the hard way, where someone I thought I was close with said to my face, you know, Kevin, like, we're not that close.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a gut punch, because I'm like, shit, like, I don't have many people that are that much closer to me than you. And if you're thinking that, like, who even are my friends?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how it all, like, ties in.
Yeah. It's tough, too, because then the anxiety can compound it and tell you a story about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, about, like, I'm strictly just speaking for myself. It's like, you aren't, like, quote unquote, like normal. You know, you can't have that type of connection because maybe it's like, I don't want to sound like LeBron, Ramon James. Like, you're just built different. Where essentially it's just telling you a story about yourself that may not necessarily be true to the current environment experience. It's like maybe that person just doesn't feel close to you, aren't like open to being closer to you where it could have been.
Yeah.
You know, that's, I think, especially for a lot of people our age, it's a tough thing to navigate. There's an inherent insecurity that comes with being in your 20s.
Yeah, and I think another aspect that has completely changed socialization is social media.
Yeah.
Like Reels is only like a couple years old. Like it feels like it's so ingrained in our society now. And if we take a step back, and I'm like showing my age here a bit, when Facebook first introduced reactions to text messages in Messenger, that completely changed how we communicate digitally, because now you're no longer just reading text messages at face value. You're hyper-analyzing every single detail about someone's message. You know, did they heart react? How long did they take to message? What kind of emoji did they use? Did they leave me on scene? How long did they leave me on scene?
Yeah.
It's all these things that is being... it's a feedback loop with social media that heightens anxiety, because you know, inherently you're thinking, why isn't this person texting me back? And that was like a big thing through high school, even through university, where it's like the easiest way to connect with people is just texting. You know, you're on Instagram, you've got a few hundred to a few thousand followers. You can see someone's story and text them. And sometimes someone will respond, sometimes not. There's definitely a very strong focus on like dating around that too, which adds like so many complications.
Yeah.
But all of that makes you just like overthink everything. And it's tying this back to the anxiety is one of the best things I've done to overcome that feeling is to just not care. You know, if somebody hasn't responded to something I say and I think of them again, I don't give a shit if I'm double texting. I'm like, yo, how's this going?
Yeah.
Or I'll say like a compliment based on their story. And what I've noticed is they actually people respond more if you send another follow-up text with it being something serious, where you're actually interested in them. I used to think that like, oh my God, I don't want to make them feel like I'm sending this message because they're not replying to me. I don't want to feel like I'm nagging them. Be like, yo, like, please reply to me. Like, I'm liking your story so that you can reply to my message. Like, that's how I would think. But now I'm like, I don't care. They can respond if they want or not. I'm going to, like, text. If they never talk to me, then I'll just ignore them.
What you're describing is something I've come to realize pretty recently. It's like giving people the chance to reject me. Where, you know, I'll be worried about a perception of being rejected in a certain situation, in a certain environment, whether it's, even if it's just like the texting someone and they don't text back. Like, I will double text to allow them to reject me. I can be myself and not worry about what their reaction will be. And going back to what you said about just not caring, which is, it goes back to, like, you know, just be happy. But at the end of the day, it is the cure in a weird, sick and twisted way. You know?
And I think a key thing there is when it comes to anxiety and, like, turning anxiety into confidence, it's not like the anxiety side is thinking, oh, they haven't responded. What should I say to make them respond? That is the anxiety mindset. The confidence mindset that I've kind of, you know, personally, like, turned that into is I don't care if they've responded or not, but I thought about this person again. They've come to my mind for whatever reason. That thing has interest, has value. I think that just naturally gives a reason for someone to want to engage with you more, because you can literally say, even if you sent, like, a terrible pickup line that flopped completely and you're, like, so embarrassed you sent that, if you follow up by saying, like, hey, I saw this song that, like, I remember you talked about and made me remember, like, think of you.
Yeah.
That can just encourage some, like, natural conversation. Another part of this anxiety is thinking that someone's current state of mind is how they permanently think of me. It's like, if I send one text message and they leave me on read, or they send, like, a one answer text with no punctuation, I'm like, they hate me. I'm like, why am I alive? But you just, like, send something else, and usually it comes back, because it's actually, I think, most of the time not that deep. And you just have to show consistency, and that's the big thing about being confident. Is being consistent is, you know, thinking to yourself, what am I thinking about? Is it about this person? And then you can say, oh, they haven't responded to me. That makes me upset. Instead of thinking, how do I make them respond? Being like, I don't like that they don't respond to me. And then find someone else to talk to.
Exactly.
It's a hard lesson, though.
Find someone who's deserving of that interaction, of that care, of that, you know, affection, you know? Because not everyone is. But that comes back to, like, the self-worth of it. You have to value yourself and what you bring to every interaction that you have with people. And that goes back to, like, knowing yourself as well. It's like, I know that I am a light that shines on you. It's up to you now. Are you going to open your shades, or are you going to close them?
Yeah, and on that regard is the self-confidence issue. And I, like, come back to social media a lot, but I think it has compounding effects on all of these mental health issues.
Well, let me ask you then, for you specifically, how has the social media, like, impacted you? You also have a pretty public, like, persona online.
That's an interesting one. And it's actually been quite a journey. And there's a lot of things I can talk about here. I think the biggest thing that I think will be interesting is how running for the AMS elections developed my, you know, social media presence and what that impact on my social life was. So when I first decided to run for VP admin 2 years ago, and this is when, like, I wanted to be involved with campus life, with improving the student experience, that was the closest position available to make that happen. And I was, like, you know, previously club president of my engineering program, so I had some leadership experience. Like, oh, let's go for this. I think I can do it. One of the things I was told was, you got to boost your Instagram engagement. You got to get, like, 2,000, 3,000 followers. And I had, like, 500, you know, people I'd met in high school, people I'd met in uni. And so I would just start adding people, anyone who had UBC in their bio, anyone who was liking AMS posts. I'm like, hey, I guess you're in UBC, like, we're a follower now. If they don't follow back, whatever. At first, it was very nice, or it was very boosting to my confidence because all of a sudden I'm getting like more attention than I previously gotten, especially I used to be a lot more introverted. So at the time I was like, oh my God, people are seeing me. I have more numbers on my posts when it comes to likes and comments. After a while of that, one thing I realized is it actually like all of these followers, people that I had not met in person, kind of lowered. How do I describe this? It's made the personal connections with the people I personally knew not as strong because I'm tailoring my social media to the masses instead of just being myself and things that I want my friends to know about me. And I think one of the big mistakes I did there was I didn't make a spam account sooner, just for people that I knew personally or that I interacted with on a day-to-day basis. Because like part of the public image is it does have an impact on how people feel about it. You don't necessarily want to be sharing every aspect of your life, but then you're also kind of hiding who you are.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the biggest impact for me when it comes to social media and the public image.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because, like, my Instagram is my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, I only just post, like, the podcast-related stuff. And I didn't really used to post anything that would share, like, my life ever. But I'm getting pressure to post more of that to boost like the other work stuff, So I've thought about doing like the private Instagram. I don't like on my like fucking social credit score, whatever the fuck you want to call it, isn't as high as yours, but it's still like, I think about like what I'm putting out into the world and how like it's interfacing with the people I know in my real life. Specifically when it comes to like what you're talking about, like sharing certain aspects and achievements that I can't necessarily share now, because it's like I don't want everyone.
Well, even if it's not just not being yourself, like that's part of it. Is like, you don't want to hide who you are. But part of having like an Instagram persona is you need to be consistent to feed the algorithm.
Yeah.
Consistent format, consistent vibe, like not that we're famous, but like one thing about being famous is having an identity that people recognize, and often that's not who these people really naturally are, and that's a tough thing because like to maintain that image, that public reputation, you have to maintain that. Like you see videos of celebrities crashing out, and even if it's like a very normal reaction, it's not something that people expect, and all of a sudden like every tabloid's talking about it, social media is hating on it. And it's not something that you really want public. Like you want yourself to be something you share with people you know and can trust.
Yeah. It's funny because like neither of us are at the level of like major celebrities. But like when I look at them now, just in this like very small scale that I've experienced, it's like you're taking a human being and commodifying them and turning them from a human being into like a thing, a product. And now it's like we're all at a zoo on our phones, looking at the different exhibits, which are other people's lives, Yeah,
and the unfortunate part is and this, I guess I didn't quite finish the part about the self-confidence or the self-esteem, is these aren't, most of the time, they're not people's real lives.
Yeah.
And like we know that, like, oh, this has been a thing even before social media where models were like, firstly, the most, genetically immaculate people that were put on covers, but also just like doctored images. Like that's been a thing forever when you look at like Barbie, when you look at models, male or female. But like for me, when it comes to the self-confidence and social media is, I've started working out over the summer, I went through a breakup. I was like, okay, I want to work on myself. This is a goal I've had for a long time. I'm going to start putting some real effort into it. And I'm starting to notice some changes, which is like great. Like I'm a little bit happier with myself when I look in the mirror. But when I open up Reels and I go to my For You page, the first thing I see is a bodybuilder. Not even a bodybuilder, but like the most jacked guy ever. Like broad shoulders, lats that like
For
you could
days.
take flight with.
Yeah.
Rock hard, like popping abs. thighs that have muscles within their muscles.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, crap, like I can't post myself online. Like, I don't want to show the world that I'm proud of myself, because am I something to be proud of?
And it's even worse when you watch people who aren't at that level, but just who look like normal people, and then all the comments are shitting on them.
Yeah, so that's been a really hard part, and that ties into like how I interact with people, where it's like, I don't know, I've always naturally just avoided eye contact, like, especially when it comes to like flirting. It's like I feel like, oh, like I maybe don't deserve to be looked at. It's hard.
Yeah.
And I feel like other people are seeing these immaculate people all the time, constantly on their feed. I'm just an average guy. Like, what is my worth? And that's a hard thing to break out with. And I'll say again, the best thing for my self-esteem to break that is to get off my phone.
Yeah.
And that actually changed this week. I had a bit of a wake-up call. Someone got mad at me, and I was like, thank you for telling me. I needed to hear this. And I was like, shit, one of the issues is I stay up late on my phone because I'm craving that attention. I'm like, I want people texting. I'm hoping that someone will reach out to me. Not necessarily as a call for help, but just like to feel wanted.
Do you think it stems from like a feeling of like loneliness, like a deeper loneliness?
Yeah, like I grew up youngest sibling of 3 brothers by 6 and 9 years, in a fairly like isolated neighborhood, kind of in North Van, like in the mountains. So there weren't a lot of places for me to escape to, except in my own home. Being on my own, playing with random toys that were my brother's from the 90s, playing with VHS tapes, even though like technology had moved on. I would just find every and any little thing to play with, and that stemmed into taking things apart. Anytime a toy, an electronic broke in my home, I would just fiddle and take it apart. I'd figure out how it would work, but I didn't have that social connection, and that made it very difficult to interact at school, because the kids at school are talking about silly, goofy things, and I go home, I don't have anyone to be silly and goofy with. And then that kind of carries over, into my whole life. Like, that's how childhood impacts your psychology.
Yeah.
So, like, that loneliness definitely just became part of that. And then another lesson around the confidence and anxiety is just being comfortable with myself, figuring out what I enjoy doing on my own.
What was that process like for you, trying to figure out what you like doing on your own?
Well, with ADHD, I've had so many different hobbies over the years. Dirt biking, trumpet, guitar on and off. Now I got a ukulele, home brewing beer. I worked at a couple breweries because I like brewing beer. I went into chemical engineering and a bit of environmental because I like brewing beer. I didn't know what else to do. And that's kind of shifted. I've gotten bored. I realized the people in those communities weren't necessarily people that I could connect well with. Like for dirt biking and homebrewing, love the hobbies, I love the people, but they were mostly like 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
Who like I can get along well with them. I can get along with anyone from a 5-year-old to an 80-year-old. That's just a skill I have. But they're not people that I can naturally connect with or talk about things going on in my day-to-day life with. So that's one thing that's been on my mind in terms of like hobbies. I think what's really settled in now is, what did I do in my childhood that I just naturally kind of felt a passion for? And that was largely photography and music. And so those are two things that when I'm bored, I'll just go and do them. So I've sunk a lot of money into photography gear. I go film raves and underground nightlife for fun sometimes. And if I'm bored, if I need a break, I'll just go play some strings on the mound outside or in my office. Just as a little brain break. And sometimes I'll find people to talk to who have similar interests.
Yeah. You actually brought your ukulele here.
I did.
Play something.
My friends here, I floated the idea, and they said I should.
Pulling out the ukulele now.
So this is actually a baritone ukulele, which means it's not as small as the little Hawaiian ones. It's got the same high 4 strings. I'm not super skilled by any means, but I guess because you've asked. Little go-to.
Can you play Fiend by Playboi Carti?
I don't know about that one.
It's one note.
Fiend.
You know what note it is?
What's up?
What note is it?
G, I think.
I don't even.
I don't think there's.
Yeah.
Fiend.
Perfect pitch comes in handy.
Yeah.
That's gonna go
I did want to mention, you mentioned a couple times that you are like the VP Student Life of the Alma Mater Society at UBC. And it's interesting because the perspective that you have, I think, is shared by a lot of students, even if they don't necessarily have anxiety. It's that feeling of like loneliness, especially on a campus as big as this.
Yeah.
Where, you know, a lot of people may have friends on campus or people on campus that they talk to and they feel especially close with. But a lot of times they go home and it's like they don't feel that same connection, you know. So it's appreciated now that you're in a role where you can directly address like the feelings that you've echoed and I've heard from other people just around. I wanted to give you the like opportunity to ask, like, what are those specific things you wanted to address in this role?
Yeah. So the reason I pursued this role, like starting with VP admin a couple of years ago before this role even existed, was because I felt that lack of community from the beginning. As soon as I walked in the gates of UBC, I felt like I couldn't find community. You know, I didn't have the comfort to just go talk to random people and like ask to hang out. Like that was kind of ties back to the anxiety, not feeling included. And what I've learned over the years is one of the best ways to build community is to have a brand. And, you know, when you think brand, you think very much like company, corporate. But brands also tie into communities. Canada has a brand. The Maple Leaf, that is a brand. And that's something we've seen recently with, you know, political tensions. Is a lot more people are embracing the Canadian brand. You see more Canadian flags, more people kind of embracing the anthem. And then that ties to sports teams, and it comes down all the way down into something small like people who run a radio station. And when it comes to campus, UBC, one thing I've noticed is there's two broad categories of these communities. There's the campus-wide community, which is, you know, the Thunderbirds, you know, wearing UBC on your hoodie, and embracing the fact that I am a student who goes to UBC and I have pride in that. And then the other aspect is the campus micro community, or like the subsidiary groups. So these are your clubs, your academic groups, you know, the day-to-day things you do as extracurriculars. That could be a sports team as well. And so each of these communities have their own little brand. And one thing that I recognize, and I believe to be the case, is when students first come to campus, they're so excited to be going into this new place. You know, university, it's like going from elementary school to high school. You're like, oh, more people, more freedom. It's a step up in the world. You're going to high school to university. You're like, wow, I'm doing something momentous. I want to be part of this campus. And so you get parents buying their kids UBC merch, the sweaters, they get the Imagine Day t-shirts, and there's this inherent hype around being a UBC student just because it's new and it's extraordinary and it's unknown. However, I don't believe that sentiment towards UBC and the Thunderbirds is necessarily kept as people progress through their degree. People find their niche community to be a part of. You see clubs, their academic groups. For me, I found home in engineering. And that was actually a very easy brand to be a part of because all you had to do was put on a red jacket. And I know engineers can be loud and annoying, but it's easy to be loud and annoying with them and to feel like you have friends just by putting on a red jacket. And that is the branding there, where it's exclusive in that you need to wear that red jacket kind of to fit in, but it's inclusive in that that's all it takes. You don't have to put so much effort to be a part of the community. And that's what I think is lacking campus-wide is not that many people really wear, Thunderbirds merch or UBC. And it is on the rise, I think. Anecdotally, I've noticed more people, and I've been working with the university, the head of housing, the head of the bookstore. I've even, talked with President Bacon a little bit. It is on the uptake, but it's still not enough where you see someone else wearing a Thunderbirds shirt or logo and be like, just high five, man, like go Thunderbirds. Like that is the kind of culture that I envision we can create on campus. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And then that's only a small part of the portfolio. Like I'm doing a lot of other things around advocacy, around accessibility, figuring out what events actually want to do. It's hard to make a survey sound sexy, but one of my big projects is overhauling the student engagement survey so that it isn't just asking about the nest and businesses and what kind of food people like, which is important for the nest building, but to also figure out how do demographics tie into different areas of sense of belonging. And so we can figure out how does gender impact whether people feel safe at events, or do transfer students not come out to events because they don't know about them? Or there might be some wild correlations that we just don't know because we don't have the data. Yeah. And so I'm really excited about that project. And now, because this is the first year that this role has ever existed, I am the first ever VP Student Life of the UBC Alma Mater Society. A lot of my work has been setting the ground up for this to be successful indefinitely in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, you're the George Washington of this. You can low-key define this.
I don't think I have his hair though.
No. We can get like a whiteout.
Here?
Yeah, there's some makeup I think in here. Yeah. But you are essentially defining the role for the people who would eventually take it up. One thing, I'm going to pitch this to you right now, and you might be working on this already, but sports jerseys for culture, I feel like, or at least Thunderbird specific merch, you know?
Well, that's funny you say that because one of the projects I actually finished over the summer was collaborating with UBC Athletics and Rec to create these retro baseball jerseys. They've been really popular. People love the look. Unfortunately, even at $50, students are struggling to afford that, which is tough. That's a lesson, and maybe we'll find ways to improve that. But that's actually something I've been working on because merch I think is actually really important, and it's hard to say new merch will fix depression on campus. It's a long time, but it is just one of those aspects where I think it is a direction we can take, where if we can create campus community, it is a project. I don't have one on me, but
I think too what it does is because my first year here, I used to live in East Van, an hour away from campus, and I didn't own anything UBC, and I'm sure there were other people from UBC who lived around me. We didn't have a community. But if I'm walking around with a jersey that said Thunderbird, obviously someone's going to know I go to UBC. It's an easy conversation starter, even an hour away from campus.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, too, that I've been talking a lot about with my staff and my team is, does wearing the merch on campus versus off campus make a difference? And I think it does. I also referee rugby. I've reffed up to some national games, an exhibition between Canada and U.S. Women's. I've been timekeeper for the rugby sevens. And every summer they'll fly kind of refs from the Lower Mainland into remote areas of BC just because they have teams, but the only people to ref there are retired players, and so they want to send up some refs that are skilled, that are neutral and biased, especially when they're driving 14 hours between towns, between like Terrace and Port Renfrew. And so I went up there a couple summers ago to Prince George. And just during warm-up, there was a girl who had UBC on her sweater. I'm like, whoa, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I see someone. I have something I can go talk to them about. And so there definitely is an impact with that sense of community. And the off-campus versus on-campus is an interesting thing, because on campus, it's not unique to identify with UBC. It's like an expectation.
Yeah.
But I still, regardless, think that having that strong community is vital.
Yeah. I did also want to ask you about sports,
Yeah.
especially because like I did some sports in high school as well, and how like your like anxiety specifically would either help or hinder with sports, like because you mentioned rugby and wrestling.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't think anxiety ever really was an issue for me in sports, because when I have a lot of stimulus, when I'm driving, when I'm playing a sport or playing video games where there's like a lot of hand-eye coordination, I can process a lot of things that are flying around really quickly in my brain, to the point where it kind of this is gonna sound crazy, but it like silences the voice in my head, where like I no longer have that internal monologue telling me, overthinking the situation or wondering what is this person thinking. It's like, no, I'm focused on using my intuition to be like, how far do I throw this ball? And my brain kind of shifts into a subconscious phase around like the physics of the world instead of the mental aspect of like society.
That's okay, because for me it was the opposite, where I had the thing of like, what does my coach think? How am I fucking up? Am I doing in the right? Am I in my right spot? Like all that type of thing. So it's interesting for you to hear that it was like, that was like a way to escape it. Essentially, it was like something that helped a lot. Having this stimulus in front of you.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely got pissed at my coaches a lot. I remember grade 11 rugby. We went on a trip to Australia and New Zealand with the team. And these are exhibition games. We're traveling, and there were like 2 out of the 3 games I wasn't even put on the field.
Jesus.
And I was smaller than most of the guys. Like I delayed puberty, but it was kind of like I had an intensity, and I think that shutting off made me confident in the field. I was captain of the club team in grade 12 because of that, even though I was a smaller guy. But yeah, no, it's the coach-player dynamic is an interesting one, especially because a lot of kids, they don't know how to handle that side of things. Some people are a bit more of a doer. They're like, yes, sir, I'm going to go do this. And some people are like more questioning, like, well, like, what's the point of this? And depends on the coach. Some are going to be like, do it because I said I did it. Some of them are going to be like explaining, like, hey, this is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
Some random thoughts like popped in my head.
No, I mean, I think they're like, because I was a doer. I would just, and I regret it, honestly.
Yeah.
I wish I spoke up for myself more. I think it hurt me in the long run. I tell my cousin who plays basketball, like right now, I'm like, don't always listen to your coach, because your coach just cares about like looking good as a team. He's not going to care about your individual development.
I think there are coaches that do care. It depends on the person. Like I've had coaches where I'm like crying for whatever reason, and I actually had this one coach. His name was Curry Hitchborn. He was UBC coach for a while. He was coach when I was captain of Capilano in U19. And there was one point where like we were in a tournament, and I was told I would be captain, and then the secondary coach is like, oh, okay, this guy's captain for this game. And I was like, what the fuck? And I'm like questioning, like, I was told this, like, why isn't it happening? Like, how do I command respect? And then the coach, this burly guy, massive beard, 6'8", from middle of the U.S., he's like, hey, Kev, like, what's up? Like, how you doing? Like, what's on your mind? Why are you in a funk? And he's like, okay, like, let's go talk about it. And he was just like, okay, next game, Kevin, like, take the lead.
Yeah.
And that's all it took. And I did not expect that from that kind of person. And so there are different coaches. Something that's interesting for me is I feel like to some extent I might be a better coach than a player because I can recognize some of the things, but I'm maybe not the best naturally genetically built to be a basketball player. My grade 8 high school teacher, he wrote on my report card, great student, fantastic, always at the front of the pack for the start of the class runs, no future in basketball. Which is funny. It was a joke.
Yeah.
I found it funny, but it's just that's how it is. That's how it be sometimes.
I was going to say, though, about that coach, goes back to exactly what you're talking about at the start, about, being someone who empowers kind of the voices of those who feel kind of similar to you. How you're essentially really good at supporting, and how you said you'd be a good coach. Because I feel like, are like that 6'8" burly dude who can see someone.
I got tall energy in me.
Yeah. Who can see someone and know in that instant that they need support to be to have their voice heard.
Yeah, and my instinct is okay, this is a guy from the States. You've got your presumptions based on how he looks. My thought is he's gonna think I'm a pussy for crying on the side of the field. That's the language I feel that kind of person might use.
And it's just prevalent in the sports world.
Especially in sports, people are using all sorts of language like that. But then it's not always like that, which was cool.
Yeah. I did want to make sure I got this out. For people who go to UBC, the AMS Mental Health Week. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, this is an initiative I'm starting as part of my role. The first VP Student Life is to start up Mental Health Week, end of November. And this is really to highlight, the resources that are on campus. Once things start getting darker, which they already have, but, once it's a darker period, midterms are in session. It's later in the year, so people have less opportunity to make friends. I'm hoping to, set the stage for something that can long-term just be a resource for students and to make campus a little bit livelier and, hopefully bring some recognition to issues like this for, the everyday student. And it's the first one ever, so I'm not exactly sure how it's going to look, how it's going to go, but sometimes you just got to full send and do your best to plan it out. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. What are the dates specifically?
November 24th to 28th in the Nest.
Hell yeah. In the Nest, we'll have, what can we expect to see?
Right now the plan is to have a mental health fair on the Monday and Tuesday. So in the lower atrium, have a bunch of interactive booths. And then the rest of the week, there's going to be events led by constituencies. So these are the undergrad societies, arts, engineering, commerce. I'm working with them to find ways to connect directly with students, and not just their own students, but everybody. So the commerce students, they can provide some finance training to people because that's a big thing that impacts mental health. And then just have things for people to come out to. It's still changing shape. But I'm excited to make it happen.
Yeah, and that student experience survey, we can expect that in our inboxes.
In a couple weeks.
It'll be
soon.
I'll actually fill this one out. Full transparency, I don't fill them out, even for the ones for Black people. I don't fill those out.
We're going to have prizes, so.
Okay, there we go. That's an incentive.
Yeah. For sure.
Kevin, is there anything else that we missed that we didn't get to talk about here?
There was one thing that I was thinking about in my head when I was like, hey, go have a podcast and talk about anything. I'm in engineering. I love how figuring out how things work, but I'm horrible at math. But I love understanding how technology interacts with society, and that's also social media and things like that. But technology does have an inherent impact on our day-to-day life, and it isn't just technology, it's systems. And the best example that I've learned in class is in 1929 there was a bridge built over a road in New York State to a place called Jones Beach.
Oh, is this Robert Moses?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this bridge was designed intentionally to be too short for buses to go through, for the purpose of preventing Black people who didn't have cars from going to this beach. And that's kind of often in my mind of like, how are the decisions that I make, especially in my role in leadership that are impacting students, how are they impacting people that I might not understand? Like, I don't think a lot nowadays, especially in this environment, is intentional. But it's often on my mind is like, is a funding application form created in a way where someone who doesn't understand finances can't get money from this application inherently?
It's the unintentional barriers that are put in place. Well, in the case of Robert, it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
But it's especially thinking about like I guess the AMS as a whole and like UBC especially, like the biases that we don't even know that could cause like prevent people to be able to access certain resources. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's just one of the reasons why I think about a quarter of my job is just getting to know students and understanding how the student body works. You know, the reason I'm in this room today is because I felt as VP Student Life, when there was an opening to be on the board of CITR, I was like, yeah, that sounds student life related. I want to be on that board. I go to the board meeting, I see what people are doing. Like, oh, there's a magazine for like local rock artists and music, up and coming bands. I found that really fascinating. And so I just came, hung out in the lounge here, met some cool people. Hey, come on a podcast. I'm doing that in like every area I can on campus. I went to a forestry undergrad party a couple nights ago. Even though I felt out of place as an engineer, I'm going there to meet people.
It's a lot of Arc'teryx, huh?
Yeah, a lot of flannel, a lot of 5-panel hats. Just going to like a poker night run by the Econ Society. That is my goal, is to try and like get to fully understand how this university works. And it's very interesting because things are a lot more fragmented than you think. Like, you have to think of UBC as like a whole, but it's a lot of like departments that are almost like mini organizations that actually have to negotiate between each other when it comes to funding, when it comes to projects. It is not like a top-down dictatorship. One of the big areas there is the faculties have a lot of autonomy from UBC Central. And so those are some challenges that the AMS is trying to advocate for. The VP Academics are even trying to get like integrated counselors into the faculties, but they can just say no, even though the funding is provided. And I'm working with UBC Wellness to help with mental health. All these different groups, UBC Athletics, they're all separate, and it's very interesting because I'm seeing this role as almost the glue that brings in the student perspective to all these different organizations. And I can say to one department, hey, this is how this other department's decisions and systems interacts with yours and like affects students, with bookings, event bookings, with getting students out to sports games, depending on like how they're marketing them or who they're marketing to. So these are all the different things kind of going on in my head with this role.
Yeah. You're. I mean, I think it's necessary. I'm glad you're the guy in the role.
Oh, thank you.
I probably shouldn't say that objectively, but I'm glad you're the guy in the role. Like I said, you represent, I think, a lot of students who feel like they are not represented. I'm thankful that you came on and just talked about your own experience. And yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you, Ross. I really appreciate the chance and the openness to just talk about this. So thank you.
Oh, awesome, dog.
This has been a Valinov production. Who Is with Ross Oteri is recorded at CITR 101.9 FM on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. The podcast is hosted and produced by Ross Oteri, executive produced by me, Maydha Sood, edited by Sultan Sukarai, with graphic design by Heath Johnson, incidental music by Sean Henry Ikpa, and theme by Ethan Gohring. We'd love to hear your story. Fill out the guest intake form and you too may be featured on the show. Bye!